Let's talk about frustration. Oh man, I have had one of the most frustrating starts in middle of a week that I think I've ever had. And oh man, it's doing a number on my brain. So I was summoned for jury duty. I went in on Monday at like 8 a.m. I sat there until lunchtime. Wasn't called for a group. I go on lunch break. I come back. Still takes probably 45 minutes to an hour until my group, the last group of the day, gets called as a group to go into the selection process. And then they talk for like 15 minutes each, maybe. They send us out, and then we come back in like 15 minutes later, and they start to select. And when I tell you this was a stupid case, it was a stupid case. I don't know why this was brought to court. I think anyway, that's besides the point. But I'm sitting there and I'm praying, just like, God, don't let them pick me, please. Like, it's already a dumb case. If I'm going to get selected, at least make it interesting. But it wasn't. So I was like, just don't pick me. And I told them that I was a youth pastor. They told me the trial was on Wednesday, and I was like, I can't do that. Like, I got a youth group, and I lead that youth group, and it doesn't. I don't have the reach to keep it going if I'm not there. And so they're like, okay, we'll keep that in mind. We'll have that as a part of our consideration for who we pick. So we go out for 15 minutes. We come back in, and of course I've got paddle number 1 here, and they're like, we're gonna go in number of the order you're sitting in, 1 to, it was like 30 or something. And I'm like, okay, so I'll know pretty quick if I'm not picked right away, essentially. But of course, God showed me no favor. First one, Braden Leggett. And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? So I'm just like, okay, whatever. And then after they pick, the judge like singles me out. It's like, hey, I know you said you've got your youth group, but we think you're gonna fit, and we're really expecting this will not go long enough to where you'll have to stress about your Wednesday night. And I said, great, as long as that happens. So Tuesday happens. I wake up Wednesday. I get there at about 9 a.m. I kid you not, I was there until 11 p.m. I was there for 14 hours. 14 hours. That's how long it was over a man stealing less than $300 worth of copper wire from a construction site. And we were there for 14 hours trying to decide whether this man was guilty or not. So, okay, we get in. It takes like an hour to get from, the little waiting room for jurors into the actual courtroom. And then from there, it was just ridiculous. It was witness, 30-minute break, witness, 30-minute break. And there were 5 witnesses. The defense couldn't hardly get a word out because the state just kept objection, objection, objection. Oh my goodness. I was this close many, many times to just standing up and saying, I don't want to do this anymore. Put me in contempt of court. I'm just kidding. But they make this seem like it's such a privilege to be a part of jury duty, and this is my civil right, and this is the Constitution, and then they make it the most miserable experience that you'll ever be a part of. It's so boring. It's so long. It should not have taken 14 hours. The worst part wasn't even the actual trial part where they're like interviewing or interrogating or whatever, and then cross-examining, then re-cross-examining, and then re-cross-examining. That wasn't really the worst part. The worst part was when we got in. We didn't start deliberation until like 7 p.m. I already knew by lunchtime. I was like, we're not going to be done. I canceled the night. I was like, whatever. Let's just get this done. I'm not coming back tomorrow. That's kind of what we all decided. But the deliberation starts, and I'm sitting there, and we feel like all of us really had this feeling that we were going to go in, figure out these 3 charges that are brought against them really quickly, But there was one guy, one old man, who just refused to agree with any of us. It didn't even matter if we flipped what we said, he would then flip what he said and disagree with us. And that went on for almost 4 hours. 4 hours. I'm beyond frustrated. I'm beyond annoyed. I've never been so close to running full speed at a window and trying to jump out of it. Glass window. I've never been so close. It takes, we argued over the definition of the word overt for more than half of that time. 14 hours there all day. So I'm frustrated. We finally leave. I get home at midnight. I wake up at 6 a.m. to go help with our VBS. And that's where I'm here now. Well, that's not where I am. That's where I'm at now. I just got over from VBS. I still wanted to make this video, but I didn't preach last night because I had to cancel. So I'm like, let's talk about frustration, because I have a lot of it right now. And when I think about frustration, I often go to Jonah, because that's one that I've read many, many times, and I'm like, invalid frustration. Like, Jonah's crazy. Jonah's on one right now. But when I think about it, especially after the events that I've been through in the past few days, I think I'm Jonah. I'm Jonah. And let me just, I think most people know the story of Jonah, but if you're new or you have no idea what I'm talking about, Jonah is the story with the guy and the fish, the one who got swallowed by the fish. God called him to something, not called him to something. Okay. God called him to preach to a city named Nineveh, and it was a very bad city, very sinful city. Jonah didn't want to do it, so Jonah runs the other direction. He gets on a boat, he starts sailing away from Nineveh, and God said, oh, no, you don't. Boom, storm. It's really stormy. All the guys on the boat are trying to pray to their different gods, and they look at Jonah, and they're like, who's your God, and what did you do wrong, essentially? And Jonah's like, I'm, the God of Israel, I think is the way he puts it. And they're like, are you insane? And you're running away from him? So they throw him in the water, and he gets swallowed by a fish. 3 days later, he gets spit out. That's the story of Jonah, if you're new. I encourage you to go read it. It's very short. You could probably read it within like the next 15 minutes. But as I sit and I reflect on my frustration from the last few days, I think I've been trying to justify the way that I was acting and speaking and feeling. I was getting very frustrated with this guy. Like, I'm not going to give you more details about it, but I was getting so frustrated because he was repeating things, he was reading things so slowly, and I was at my limit for like 2 hours. I was at my limit, and I was, I controlled it, but I was still very feisty. I was angry towards him. My words were filled with not nice intent. And I reflect on it, and I was convicted pretty quickly. As I'm sitting and reflecting and thinking about it, I was convicted pretty quickly of the way that I acted and spoke towards this man and towards others. I mean, we were all really frustrated. We all wanted to go home. We were all trying to just be like, okay, let's just agree on this and let's go home. But it took us 4 hours to do so. So everyone was really frustrated. And the problem wasn't with them in this situation. The problem was with me. And just like the problem wasn't with the sin of Nineveh, the problem that we're really reading after in the story of Jonah is Jonah's heart. And that's what I've been reflecting on for a little bit after my events. After everything, the story ends really with Jonah saying, okay, fine, I'll go preach to Nineveh, but I'm not happy about it. And God does an amazing work through that. A lot of people, I don't know exactly what it says. I should have just read the whole story before this, but the city of Nineveh was saved. Jonah's words, God used those words in such a way that the city of Nineveh was saved. God showed mercy, and he didn't destroy that city. And then you read that Jonah was not okay with that. Jonah wasn't happy about it. He's like, I'm not happy about it. And I've read this story so many times, and I think that's such an unjustified and ridiculous way to respond to what just happened. From a ministry standpoint especially, but from any standpoint, that's incredible. One guy says one thing, an entire city is saved. Like, I wish, I wish I could have one sermon that would save my entire city. That'd be incredible. But then Jonah's not happy with it because Jonah didn't want God to save them. He was like, these people are ridiculous, God. You should not show mercy to these people. And sometimes I'm like, Jonah, what the heck? Like, that's literally your job. God told you to go speak to those people and that he would save them. And you didn't want to do it, but you did it anyway, and he still saved them. And Jonah, you're still mad about it? But then, hold on. I lost my train of thought. I do that a lot. He didn't want God to save them. He didn't want God to have mercy on them. He didn't want them to show love, and he didn't want them to show blessing, him to show blessing to them. And where do I act in a similar way in my life? I get upset when God blesses other people sometimes, especially in my line of work as a youth pastor. I get upset when other youth groups do really well, and I'm not doing as well. There's 2 other larger youth groups in the area that do really well. And they've done really well they've been around. I've been here for less than a year. But I'm still upset when I look at them and they've got 150, 200 kids on a Wednesday night. I struggle to pull 10. I get so frustrated that because I sit here and I'm like, man, I'm doing the thing. I'm trying to be faithful about it, and I'm pushing and I'm teaching and I'm trying to connect with these kids, and I don't always see the crazy thing is we've had tremendous growth. We've had tremendous strength form in our group, unity form in our group, but I miss that a lot when I'm looking at what God is doing for other people, and I get upset, and that's where I feel like I sit a lot. I sit a lot in my frustration of God blessing other people, and I think I sit in that frustration so much that I miss what God is doing for me. Because if I look back at when I started in my first Sunday morning. We had Sunday school, and I think there was like 10 or 12 kids that showed up. And I came after a guy, the last guy suddenly left. There was a lot of sadness and heartbreak with those students of him just leaving so suddenly. And so I'm coming into a rough situation, just a complete rebuild, really. And that first Sunday was 12. I think the peak we hit was 21 on a movie night that we did. Maybe it was 18 or 19, but no, it was 17 that night. That was it. Okay. Anyway, so we hit a peak. I was like, this is awesome. We're moving forward. And then as the months went on, it slowly started to dwindle away. And there was a night that we had one student, and that student was our former lead pastor's grandson. We count it. We love him, but that's so difficult because I was so excited, and I was like convinced this was God. I'm going to be the next these other churches who I'm going to have 200 kids show up on a Wednesday night. We're going to pack this room. It's going to be awesome. And then I'm slowly starting to see these kids stop coming, and we got down to 1. But since then, we've rebuilt to where we're 8 to 12 on a Wednesday. So going from 17 down to 1 back, that's amazing. And I know that, and I get mad at myself when I get frustrated with that. But I sit so much in the frustration that I don't have 200 people yet. I don't have 200 students. I sit in that frustration, and I miss what God's already doing, what God is doing. We've had 6, 7, 8 new students in the past 4 or 5 months. That's awesome for me. That's awesome for this group. That's incredible. But I miss that because I get so frustrated that God hasn't given me 200 students yet. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I know someone's going to relate to that in some way. You don't even have to be a youth pastor, but I get so frustrated when God blesses other people, in such a way that makes It makes me look at it and be like, man, I'm not doing enough. God's not doing that for me. God's not doing as much for me. And I sit that frustration. And another way that I get, where I sometimes I have compassion limits. That was a hard left turn. I just didn't know what else to say for the last thing. Sometimes I have compassion limits, and that's where I feel like I hit a level that I don't know if I've ever hit before with this old man. I liked him going into it. He's a magician, a very sweet old man. But as the course of our deliberation just kept going, my compassion, it hit a limit where I was like, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. You've given 20. You've reached 20 times that I've been like, okay, move past it. Let's keep going. But it was the same thing 20 times. Anyway, I have a limit sometimes of the amount of compassion that I'll show somebody before I get frustrated. And it just kind of, it's not the same every time. It's circumstantial, but I think Jonah had a compassion limit. I think he saw the sin in the city of Nineveh and said, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve God's love. They don't deserve me preaching to them. They don't deserve any of this. They don't deserve to be saved. They don't deserve the opportunity at repentance. And Jonah met his limit. I think I meet my limit a lot. I think I meet my limit every Wednesday night. It's just when it's the same thing over and over again, I'm just like, man, when are you gonna get it? When are you gonna get it? And I reach a limit, and I think that's where I relate to Noah. Not Noah. I keep thinking Noah before I say Jonah. That's where I think I relate a lot to Jonah in this situation. Of he saw, and he's like, they don't deserve it. And I think sometimes when I reach a certain point, I look and I'm like, they don't deserve it anymore. They've done it too many times. They've annoyed me too many times. They read too slow. And that's awful. That's terrible. That I have a point where I just think they don't deserve it anymore. And that's a really dangerous mindset and heart posture to be in. Because Jesus would never get to that point. Jesus would never say that they're too far gone. Jesus would never think or say those people don't deserve it anymore. And I think I get that way towards a lot of certain groups of people. And I kind of touched on it in my video last week, but man, I see more than 2 or 3 videos on social media. I'm like, I reached my limit already. Because I just think there's something built up in my heart that is so against them. And I'm trying to work through that, but I reach a level of, they don't deserve it anymore. I don't think they deserve it anymore. And that's why it's so great that it's not up to me. It's not up to us. We serve such a loving and gracious God that there is no limit to when people can turn back, or someone can reach them, something can reach them. And I think if I could have that heart of never giving up, never saying it's too much, never reaching a point where I'm like, I can't do it anymore, how far God could take that. And I'll tell you a little story of an outreach that I tried to do. So several months ago, I tried to set up a tent and a table with some of my students right outside the high school, not on their property. I didn't even ask for permission. But we set up, and the goal was to just have conversations with students, give them free soda, water, Powerade, Gatorade, and just try to start conversations. Just try to get little seeds planted in some of these students' minds and just keep showing up and keep showing up. And we probably handed out 3 drinks, a couple of waters, a Powerade, maybe a soda or 2. But man, these students just came out walked right by us with their headphones on, looking straight forward on their phones. They wanted nothing to do with us. Even when we like went out and like tried to have conversation with them, like, hey, if you beat me in rock, paper, scissors, we'll give you a free Powerade. And they're like, no, it's okay. I'm like, even if you lose, I'll give you a free Powerade. Just come over to our table. Let us hand you this little handout thing. And they didn't want to do it. And it took like 15 minutes of this before I was like, I think we're just going to pack up and leave. Like, it's not working. It's not getting to them. I tried it once for 20 minutes and I gave up. That was my limit. That was my compassion limit for these students. But sometimes I think, what if I just kept going every week? What if I kept sitting there? What if I kept trying to hand out? What if I kept trying to have conversations? What could have God done with that? But I reached my human limit and said, nope, they don't deserve it. I can't reach them. Just like Jonah. You can't reach them, God. They're too far gone. And that sucks. Sometimes that keeps me up at night. I have a lot of ideas of outreach, and then I'm like, I don't know. And the thing that keeps bothering me about that is that I just keep going. Like I have a moment just like this where I sit and I reflect and I think and I'm like, okay, I need to do better. And it doesn't take that long before I'm back to having a short limit or a small limit or whatever. It doesn't take me very long, and that frustrates me so much, and it bothers me because I think what bothers me is that I can read Jonah over and over and over again, and I'll have the same judgment towards Jonah. I'm like, Jonah, I can't believe you responded like that. I can't believe after seeing what God did through you, you still reacted like that. And then I sit long enough to think, dang, I'm Jonah. And then 2 weeks later, I'm back and I rethink or reread Jonah, and here I am again. Jonah, I can't believe you would act like that. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's with like everything in the Bible for me. I read it and I'm like, great. I need to be doing better at that. I'm going to do better at it. Takes a couple weeks, boom, straight back. Why? You know? And like, I don't have a pastoral answer for that one. I mean, I know why. I'm not going to try to sit here and explain it because like, if I could explain it to myself, I'd be better at it, you know? I've tried to explain it to myself, to students, to other people, but sometimes I just still don't know why I keep going back to it. I don't know. And it bothers me a lot. It bothers me exponentially. This one, I don't know how long I've been going, but this last question that I kind of found or thought of is if someone, this might be the end of a lot of my videos here, but if someone were to follow me around for like, let's say a week, would they see the message that I'm reflecting on, the what Jonah is trying to get at? Would they see that lived out through me? You know, I confuse myself, so I'm assuming you're confused too. But like Jonah, the opposite of Jonah, would they see the opposite of Jonah lived out, where I was content, I was happy, I was, you know, God's doing great things no matter what happens, no matter who it is? Would someone see that lived out in my life? And my answer is no, they wouldn't all the time. My honest answer is they would not see that all the time. And it, like, that sucks, you know, when you think about it. Like, if all of us answered honestly to that question, we would reach the same thing. No, they wouldn't see that all the time. And why don't they see that all the time? Because I'm selfish and I don't want to sometimes. I don't want to show compassion to some people. I don't want to show love to some people. But I'm not called to do what I want to do. I'm called to do what Jesus has called me to do, what God has called me to do. If I sit here and nitpick what students I want to reach and what students I think deserve the gospel, I'm not living out the gospel. I'm not doing what God's called me to do, because God has called me to reach all students across all nations, all tongues, all tribes. Our motto for this youth group that I came up with is literally until every student knows. But sometimes I get selective. I get selective who I think should be here, who I want to be here, which kids I pour more into than others. Why do I do that? Why do I do that? You know? And I come back to that question a lot. Why do I do that? What is wrong with me? Anybody else? Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to go from there. Like I have like no genuine response that I could respond with to that question. Why am I like that? I don't know. Why do I do that? I don't know. Why am I so selfish? I don't know. How do I overcome that? I don't know. I don't have a 3-step plan for you. I don't know, man. This one's gonna come to no conclusion because I don't know. Like I'd like to think that I'm gonna learn my lesson and then I won't get frustrated again. But I know I'm gonna get frustrated again. I'm in ministry. I'm gonna get frustrated again. I'm gonna be frustrated with people. I'm gonna get frustrated with students. I'm gonna frustrated with my job in this church. I'm gonna get frustrated again. But I think the most important thing is how our frustration is dealt with coming out of us. I can feel frustrated. I don't have to let that out. I don't have to reflect that in the way that I treat people and speak to people and act and think. I can feel frustration. I can get frustrated. I think it's human nature to feel frustration. But I think our job and our goal is to not reflect what we feel towards other people. Because if every time I got angry and if I yelled at my wife every time I got angry or upset, I wouldn't be alive anymore, one thing. But that's not Christ. Everything comes down to reflecting Christ. And if I'm letting the frustration that I feel come out towards other people, I'm not reflecting Christ. I've got to find a way. You've got to find a way. We've all got to find a way to not reflect the frustration and the anger and the sadness from the world dictate how we treat people. And really, only God can do that through us. That is nothing we'll be able to obtain on our own, in our own efforts, in our own strength. That's the hardest part, I think, is that knowing that I can't do anything. I mean, there's steps I can take, there's effort I can put into it, but apart from the Holy Spirit, it's not going to work, not going to happen. And that frustrates me too. I'm a very big, there's a problem, I fix it, I need to fix it, I need to figure it out, I need to do it. But there's so many things that are outside of my scope, outside of my realm, that the Holy Spirit's what's going to change my heart. Jesus is what's going to change my heart. God's what's going to change my heart. I'm not going to change my heart. So relying on the Holy Spirit to do such a work in me is frustrating. I don't think we talk about that enough. I don't think we talk about how frustrating it is sometimes to rely on the Holy Spirit. Don't hear what I'm not saying there. It's not frustrating that's what we have to do, but it's frustrating from a human standpoint that we're not the ones in control of that. I don't know. Next week, I am preaching on James 2:13, I think. Hold on, 14 through 26. Great passage. Faith without works is dead. I don't take it easy on the students, and I was really excited. I had this set up. It was already a cobwebs forming on this thing. I put this up 2 days ago. Anyway, got this new setup. I'm really excited about it. That's why I was the most frustrated, is that I built this, put this all together, and I couldn't even show it to the students. I posted it on social media. I made a special video about it, and I couldn't show it to them. So next week is the week that we're going to do that. We're going to have our first Wednesday night inside with this setup, and I'm excited about it. James 2, we're going hard on them. So come back next week. I'll have a lot to say in this video about that message. So I don't know, if you enjoy these, let me know. I got really good comments on my last one, and I really appreciate you guys. I hope you guys are back and watching. That helps me, just to know, like, it's reaching somebody. I like to know when things are reaching somebody, and they are. So that's why I want to keep making these. But anyway, hopefully there was something in there that you could take away from this that would help you, even if it's just the fact that someone is feeling the same way. Someone's got the same frustrations, and we're trying to work through it together. Thank you guys. I'll be back next week. I don't have jury duty, so there will be a Wednesday night, God willing. Anyway, thank you guys. I'll see you next time. Outros are not doing it. Thank you guys.